for me at least.
That's sort of how I feel about when you find that side hustle, when you find your thing, when you find your passion, like, there is no quit.
Yeah.
It's not even like, what?
Yeah.
You know, when I'm going to walk away from myself, it'd be like decentralizing from your soul, in a
Yeah.
sense. You know, it's just not,
Yeah.
it's not a thing. I think, where I was, actually, that was like a really awesome anecdote. Where I was going with this is really a question of, and more so as a toolkit for everyone here, when you have those moments, and let me tell you, every single one of us, every single famous person you've ever seen, every celebrity, every person on the radio, the three of us sitting, I can count, four of us sitting up here, we all have moments of imposter syndrome. Every single person faked it till they made it. Mm-hmm. Every single person feels like they don't belong when they walk out on that stage sometimes, and it's all just how we gloss over it. You know, it's all very surreal. I woke up this morning and almost started crying. I was like so grateful to be alive and here, and like it was like it's very real. So just because people look confident and awesome doing whatever they're doing, or like wrote that thing that got published, it doesn't mean that they knew it was going to get published there when they wrote that thing. They probably were really hoping it would, but you don't necessarily know that. So my kind of question to you guys, and we'll start with you, Abby, just because we're kind of on your note right now. When you have that moment of fear, when you're that weak, when you're like, oh my God, what if we're humiliated? I mean, first of all, any press is good press, so I knew this story was going to end well. But what do you tell people to do? You know, or more importantly, what's the conversation you have within yourself or within your support network to keep going?
Well, at first I'm like, I want to sue America's Got Talent. That was not the right thing to do.
Fucking love it though. Like, yeah. Guns blazing. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, gosh, I don't know. For me personally, I think I mean, this may sound very hippy-dippy, but meditation. I hoop. That's what I do to like kind of relieve stress, you know? It's funny too, because when I went full-time with my business, people would say, well, you're not going to be as passionate about it when you're full-time with it. But that's not true. 9 years later, I still love it just as much as I did on that first day. So in fact, if anything, I love it more because of what's been created from it. I had no idea it was going to end up being what it is today, and then what's possible in the future too. But I guess it's just going within, and also talking to your support system, family, friends, people who care about you, who know the time and energy you put into this thing that you are so passionate about, that are going to be the ones when you feel weak to say, you know, don't give up. You can't do this. Look at all that you've created and all that's possible. So everybody has those moments of weakness, right? So it's just having a support system, I think, mainly to help get you through it and help you see the other side.
Yeah. Do you have any food you eat in those moments, or beverages?
Whiskey, is that appropriate? No.
I'm whiskey and Swedish fish. I'll just fully disclose that right now. What about you, Taylor?
So I think one thing is I always used to get really clear on what the actual worst case scenario is. That we're often more afraid of the ambiguity of it, and then once you define what the worst case scenario is.
So true.
You know, like I literally like asked my parents, like, could I sleep on your couch if like this all falls apart? And they were like, yes. And I had a friend who was like, yes, I would hire you tomorrow. I had when I left my job, I actually had like kind of 2 other outstanding job offers, and I left on good terms, knowing I could go back. So like the worst case scenario is I was already living the worst case scenario, which is like I just keep doing what I'm doing right now. So like once I kind of had that psychological freedom that like there actually isn't really a clear downside, but I'm just afraid of the uncertainty. I think that gave me a lot of confidence. And I think the other thing that I increasingly realize is there's a real difference between true risk and perceived risk. And that what we often perceive to be risky isn't really risky. And, you know, we recognize this in other domains. Like, you know, it feels good to eat cake, but that doesn't make it, you know, smart. The way you internally, subjectively feel about something isn't always a good indicator of the objective reality of how smart a decision that is. So I think every day feels much riskier to me now than it did 3 years ago. But from like an objective point of view, I can't really justify that. That's much more like a subjective, internal, evolutionary thing.
So how do you talk yourself through that?
Meditation as well. I'm a big proponent of, and I'll make the same book recommendation I made earlier, which is The War of Art. It's a book that made a really big impact on me. And kind of just, I think, let me know that like that's normal, that everyone I think the dangerous thing about imposter syndrome is you think it's just you, that like you're the imposter and everyone else is actually like they're above board, and you're the one that's like sneaking in under the cover of night or whatever, and everyone feels that way. And I think once you realize that literally everyone around you has that same internal subjective feeling, it's like, well, okay, I could just get over it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was talking with a female, Pippa Mann, the Indy car driver, the other day, and I was like, God, it's so cool to talk to you if you're a race car driver. And she's like, are you kidding me? I'm talking to you. And we're both, it's like the co-imposter moment where you're geeking out, but also so supportive, and like, wow, we really are just a bunch of dorks underneath it all. Just kind of, yeah. Do you have any vices that help you through it too?
The gym, if I can convince myself to go to the gym, like that's always, I'm like always amazed. Like I worked out before this morning. It's like if I pick something heavy off the ground, like it makes me feel better about every aspect of my life. Or if I go for a run, it makes me feel better about every aspect of my life. And then my unhealthy vices are Meat Lovers Pizza and Ben & Jerry's.
Yeah, shameless. Vincenzo.
You said that the hardest part was quitting, right? You mentioned that earlier.
I think that moment, that's the fear moment. I don't actually think that's the hard. Starting a business is hard, but yeah. I think
for me, that was like the easiest thing because I knew it was happy. That would bring happiness. Like I finally sat and accepted that was what was going to make me happy, was to do what I wanted to do and not be bound by 9 to 5, a desk, ball and chain, that old. But is that me? Oops. So that for me was the easiest thing to do. The most difficult thing that I did was got rid of my first client. I separated the relationship because it was toxic. The expectations weren't there. I sold myself because that fear of a paycheck to me was so powerful that I said, okay, I'll do everything. I'll give you whatever you want.
I'll say yes to all the things.
And I will say yes to everything for not enough money and not enough time. And it wasn't even the money, it was more of the time, because it didn't allow me enough time to continually grow the business. So getting rid of that first client was huge. I was like freaking out every day, like, when am I gonna do this? It took me over a month to finally tell them. So I did the work for a month before I finally said, okay, this relationship needs to end. I have to come into the office, we need to talk about this. And it did. And of course, like Taylor said, worst case scenario, you're running through your head, oh my God, I'm gonna lose my house. I can't feed myself. I'm gonna like be sleeping on the street, sleeping in my car. I have no idea. And I was. Those are the types of things that go through your head constantly. I saw something recently. You've probably seen it. You've probably all seen it. Like they say, the entrepreneur's day. It starts like really high. You think like, all right, great. I'm gonna start up here today. I went to the gym, and then within an hour, you're like, oh my God, I'm failing. No one's responding to me. My clients aren't responding to me. Then you get a client to respond, or maybe you get a little nibble of like good news, and you're like, okay, I'm feeling good again. And that's kind of exactly what happens. It was so true, it was so spot on, because every day, that's every day. And then you have to be able to balance that, like that roller coaster, because it will happen until you get to the point where you've accepted. For me, it was changing my lifestyle completely. I didn't work out a ton. I would work out, but not anything crazy for me. I now box every morning, really, really early. It's getting up at the miracle morning hour of 4:30 and working out at 5.
Ew.
Yeah, it's
sorry.
Believe me, that's exactly what I thought. So that was what has helped me start my day, and it starts every day more emotionally higher than I was before. And I realized that I became more creative, I became more articulate. I would write every morning. So once I would get back from my workout, I would write, and I would have thoughts, creative thoughts, whatever would come out of my head for the day, and that's what I would at least kind of do, like a mind dump over my cup of coffee, and I would start my day. And if it helped me throughout the day, whatever I wrote down, because sometimes it would make absolutely no sense, it helped. And sometimes I'd have brilliant ideas. Sometimes it would be not absolute nonsense, but actually most of the time it's absolute nonsense.
I think there's an interesting desensitization process too. Like once you've had that sensation of like the world is going to end 58 times, then like all 58 times the world did not end. Like the 59th time, you're like, okay, this sensation is 0 for 58, so it's probably not. Like this isn't going to be the time.
Yeah. You're so right. No, I think it's you become comfortable with almost being queasy. There's like Yeah.
It's not, well, it's not, listen, entrepreneurship is not for everybody, obviously, but I mean, most of us here have, I think, have it in them to be entrepreneurs, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody understands, and you said support system, but on the flip side, there's a lot of people that also don't support, entrepreneurship. Well, why don't you just, and I have people in my life that are being now distanced, but sometimes they're too close to you to distance, and knowing every day, well, why don't you just get a 9 to 5? You were making such good money. Why don't you just accept that? We were talking backstage earlier about, like, my mom has worked the same job for 35 years. She does not have an entrepreneurial gene in her body. She's a great woman, but she just doesn't have that. Now, my father, my brothers, my uncles, they all are entrepreneurial. They could never work tied to a desk. But my mom is, why don't you just 9 to 5? She's been the same job 35 years, hasn't wanted to increase, hasn't wanted to move up, nothing. She's completely content.
And that's totally cool.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
But for me, it's not that. So sometimes we have people in our lives that are just like, hey, why don't you just go do that? You know what? Oh, you don't have a lot of clients this week? Yeah, exactly. It's too easy to do that. And for me, the challenge is enjoyable.
Yeah. Vices?
Vices? Oh, I like to travel. I know it's not a vice, but I like to travel. Old fashions. As soon as things get rough, like the end of the day, sometimes the end of the day, 5 o'clock comes at 1.
Sometimes it comes at 10
Actually,
a.m. I'm just going to be
most
totally
days it
honest
comes
about that.
at
In
1.
entrepreneur land, you can wake up and it's like, well, I need a cocktail.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
You know,
really is.
in Hong Kong, it's freaking midnight, so we're good.
Old fashions and pizza.
Love it.
Any kind of pizza.
Totally shameless. So I think I love this notion of that sort of like static fear and that cycle of like, oh my God. And these moments happen all the time. And I think for me, sometimes we'll try and do a third person or like bird's eye view. And I think about it and I'm like, this is happening exclusively in your head. There is not a single actual external factor here that's indicating the world will end, but in your brain, you are just convinced it could possibly happen. So I'm like, okay, first of all, you're crazy, set that aside. Now moving forward, like, what can you do to do this? And I think for me in those, I'm very, I come across as an incredibly extroverted person, but I actually really find my strength inside my own head and being very quiet and very private. And there was so I love that we're talking a lot about hippies today too. So my parents were yoga instructors. I grew up in California. I come from the flower people, and with a name like Savannah, it's already kind of going down that path. My mother had a little sticker on our mirror in the bathroom. There was only one mirror in my house growing up too, another sign of hippiness. And on that mirror, on that little plaque, it said, "I am powerful, beautiful, creative, and I can handle it." And it was a mantra. I saw this every day of my life for 17 years before I moved to college and ran away from home for 10 years. And I, to this day, hear that in my head before I get on stage, before I take a big risk, before I go on television, before I do anything. It is, no matter what, I just remind myself, and I truly believe it. I mean, you have to have a mantra. You have to have something that you at least believed once, so when you're totally paranoid and don't know what to do, you can believe it again. And there's something about those words. It's almost like my stuffed animal as a kid, or like my binky or whatever. Is there? I can find a sense of self and a sense of peace when I just remind myself, I am powerful, I am beautiful, I am creative, and I can handle this. And the reality is, I know because I'm 58 for 58, I will handle it. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing you learn too, is it's not just this sensation of the world ending doesn't mean it's going to end. It's also, I will stop it from ending. And I have done that so many times that I know it can be done. It's kind of like writing finals or writing papers in college. You know you're going to make it, and it just feels like you're not going to make it right now. So we are getting lower on time here, and I want to make sure you have the opportunity to ask us any questions you might like to. I'll open it up to you guys. Yeah.
You don't sleep.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. No.
You have to cut what is less important. So for me, like I loved movies or I loved watching TV, just to veg out, and those things instantly got cut for me. And now it's become lifestyle. Those were certain changes. It depends on. Unfortunately, the gym had gotten cut out for a while during that side hustle, but you have to find what is not adding value to your day. And if it's getting up earlier in the morning, because that's what it was for me, getting up earlier in the morning to add hours to my day. I never was a person that could sleep for 10 hours anyway, but there's a lot of people that can, and that's the first thing I say is, are you just laying in bed that extra hour? Because that's an extra hour that you can add to either your business or to get something going.
It doesn't just have to be about not sleeping, though. I mean, I think,
no, of course not.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I always do is I ask myself when I look at a given day, what needs to get done and what's being superhero Sev. So certain things can be superhero. Sometimes I can be there, make every birthday party, see all my friends, run my company, and be live in the morning for 2 hours on network television. Or I cannot. And I make decisions typically at the end of the day is always when you're like, oh God, what can I do? I literally compartmentalize what's superhero versus what can be done. And you just have to reschedule things sometimes. It's like, I think one of the most important things I learned having started a business, left that for a while, and now coming back, is how valuable those friendships are. And make sure people know you love them, and they also respect your hustle. They know you gotta go do that stuff. And it's okay to say, hey, you know what? I really can't get a drink, but I would love to have quality lunch with you, in a week and a half and really dedicate that time. But I think it's be where you are then and stop thinking about all the other things that are on your to-do list, get them done, but also accept that you're not gonna get everything done. It just doesn't work. The side hustle, you will slowly see as you make even 15 minutes for it today, the next day you want to make 30 minutes, and somehow you'll figure out a way to make an hour, and pretty soon you'll have your block.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just along the same lines, I will say the thing that, for me, that held me back the most when I started my business was not being willing to accept help too. Because for me, I was like, if I don't do it myself, it's not going to get done right. This is how I envision it. This is how it needs to happen. But once I started to kind of think outside of that box, I realized that I had been ignoring all of these people saying to me, I want to help you. What you're doing is really cool. I want to be a part of it. And so once I let those people in, my business started to grow. But when I closed them out, I was stifling myself and I was stifling the growth. So I think, it's hard to let go, especially as entrepreneurs. Like, we have this mentality that we're go-getters. We want to get it done. We want to make it happen. We want to make sure it's done right and as perfectly as possible. But help is necessary, and you'll be surprised too. I mean, in my case, certainly, people surprise me. They've gone above and beyond. I've got so many amazing people in my performance troupe now that's just step up to the plate, that just show up to events and are like, here at 7 in the morning, I'm here to help you. Like, you're amazing.
It's amazing how people will follow a good vision.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I think that's a great point, too. Say yes to the help. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. My assistant offered to start walking my dog. I was like, yeah. Please do all the things within my home and take care of my life. Cool. All right. Any other questions? Nothing?
I'll add to this one then while no one else can ask a question. Learn to say no to things too, like you said. That's so important, understanding when you can say no, but understanding that it is a side hustle, and until that becomes your main, you quit your job and it becomes your job, you also have to put expectations on yourself. I mean, you can't say yes to every single person that wants your time at that point. For me, it was understanding, okay, I can take, as a side hustle, I can take 4 coaching clients. That's it. That's all I could take. I couldn't go and take 15, 20, 30, because then it might as well have become my job. That was it. I wasn't ready, though. So until you are ready to make the move, understand what your number is or understand what your time allocation is to that.
And listen to your heart. Like, what's making you feel good? What your time, how you spend your time, and what's actually making you feel stronger and more powerful as an entrepreneur versus what boxes are you checking because you feel like you societally have to check them.
I'll add one thing as well.
Yeah.
I think something that really was transcendental for me was deadlines and having deliverables you can control due by certain deadlines. So it's like, if you are trying to do web design hustle on the side, it's like, I'm going to pitch 10 clients this month and having those be non-negotiable deadlines. It's amazing to me how good I am at rationalizing not doing the things that I like, sales, shipping product, like all the things that most drive the business forward, I always rationalize away. And so I think putting yourself on some sort of deadline and like make it, you don't have to kill yourself. It doesn't have to be some absurd deadline, but like, I will ship this deliverable by this date. I think you start to get that real sense of progress, right? You can look back and you can say, look, I've done this and this and this, and I can see how far I've come, and so there's a trajectory to where I want to be.
And reward yourself early. I think when you're first starting off, it's oh gosh, it's going to be years before this is ever anything. Pat yourself on the back when you order your business cards. Buy yourself a beer when you set up your website, or buy your domain name. You should be celebrating each little step because it's huge. You'll remember every single one of those moments. Like I even just got elated getting my new business cards being back myself and showed them off to everyone.
They are pretty sweet.
They are pretty sweet. You're welcome to check them out. But just that felt great, and I gave that to myself as a treat after I had re-gone through my contracts, which, as everyone knows, there's nothing more fun than looking at contracts. And I said, okay, now I can go design business cards because I love doing this, and this is going to be really exciting. And I think that balance will actually make it easier. Yeah, I think the deadline thing is good, and when you hit that deadline, say, I did it. That's the first big step in my new business. It's perception is reality, both in the negative and in the positive. And I think you can really.
And I will say too, know that you don't have to be great at everything. From the time I was a kid, I've never been good at math. So me handling my own accounting was not going to happen. I mean, and I found people to trade with me too. An accountant who wants to come to hula hoop class, perfect. Let's do a trade. We don't even have a monetary exchange. So there's so many creative ways to accomplish your goals, and know that you don't have to do every single little element of your business. Find somebody who's good at it and that might even want your service in exchange for theirs.
That's such a good point.
Yeah, you'll learn to become really good at bartering things.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
the
everything.
trade is huge. And also, that's how you can do more with less. I think you're bringing up a really good point. I trade a lot of content creation to go places, for airline tickets, for places to stay, for fun experiences. If there's something I want to do that I can't afford, I offer to add value to their event and then get to go for free. And that actually works 9 times out of 10, if not more than that.
Yeah, Gasparilla Music Fest this weekend. I bring my girls to perform, and I get to vend for free. So it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, exactly. So you just, one of my favorite quotes, and one of the things I'm always quoted as saying is, you can't get what you don't ask for. So that goes for bartering, for help, for information. People will help you. People will surprise you. They just have to know what you need. And I think that's great. Yeah.
For me, no. It's just this calling that's internal that is, like I said, I mean, I was at the job that had been the best to me. The paycheck was the highest. The company culture was amazing. My boss was a genius. So many great things. And I had other positions that were not quite that way. So it was a very hard decision. It seemed like it would be a very hard decision. I cried a little bit, but I knew in my heart that I had no choice. And the decision had already been made because I had this other passion and calling that was taking precedence.
It's funny you asked that question because I was offered more money, more flexible time, 3 days to work from home. It just wasn't the same. Like, there was nothing, and it's not a knock to the employer. It's
has
the
nothing to
employee.
do with
it has nothing to do with the employer. It's the employee. If that employee doesn't want to be there every day and there's something inside that's telling them, I can't, this is not me, there's nothing. I mean, if you're in it for the money, you're in it for the wrong reasons. Like if you go and you say, I want to be an entrepreneur because it's for the money, no, you shouldn't. Because
although statistically, entrepreneurs make 20% more than people who go to a day job.
Right.
Little known fact. Actually, no, this is something you should know. The lifestyle entrepreneur makes 20% more than the person who works a 9 to 5 for 40 years. So I think that's a really interesting question, and it's never a personal thing, and it's kind of a nice note to end on. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but I hope you all start rocking your side hustles or building them out. We would, I'm sure, be happy to talk to you more in depth about anything specifically. Abby, Vincenzo, Taylor, I can't thank you enough for being my co-panelists.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you very
and
much.
thank you all.
Thanks.